If a CEO is listening to this today, or a CTO, CIO, what should they look for if they've never done this before?
One is, what is your GRC budget? And how much you spending for tools? The bigger companies, in a good way, do have budget for this stuff. They're just overpaying. They're overpaying on services and they're overpaying on tools. I come in, license price about 1/10 of what the big guys will charge. And a service costs 1/100.
Hi, and welcome to the Value Proposition Podcast. My name is Walid, CEO of Cloudpso. Today we have a very, very special guest, Garret Grajek, YouAttest CEO. Hi, Garret. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Looking forward to the conversation, Wally.
Okay, great. So, Garret, I've known you for a long time, and why don't you give us a little bit of a background on yourself and how did you become CEO of YouAttest?
Fantastic. Yeah. So Garret Grajek is what? I got hired because I'm an identity guy. I literally got hired in Silence. They were building some real breakthrough AI technology, and they scrubbed the bushes for an identity guy. And that was me. And we did. It was a lot of fun. Look, some of the ideas that we did at Silence, I brought over here. So that had its course. And what had happened was I had before Silence had left a enterprise that had started called SecureOff, really great two-factor company that changed the way people saw two-factor because it integrated into the IDP. And some of my engineers while they're at Silence said, Garret, there's something missing in identity that you should build. And we always pick up our ears when we hear that. What's missing? What should we be doing? And there's like, well, it's the governance part. And let me just, for everyone out there, when people think of identity and security, they think two-factor, okay? Or maybe they think single sign-on. But there's 3 A's in identity. If you learned real early on in your career, there's authentication, authorization, and audit. And authentication, we're pretty good at that now, guys. We really are. I mean, I've been involved in authentication. I got like 8 patents in authentication. That's doing pretty good now, okay? I really do thank the groups like at Microsoft and at Google for making two-factor ubiquitous. And the second part, the second A, is authorization. Is being done much better now than it was 20 years ago. And is what you do with Okta. It's what you do with Entra ID. It's what you do with Jump Cloud and Ping and all that. You come up with authorization policies that at a single console can affect multitudes of applications. And that's good. Centralizing is good. The third A is still a mess. The third A is still 1960s auditing.
Wow.
It really is. It's really at, like a really prehistoric level. And people say, we need AI. Well, we do need AI. I mean, we need a different A when it comes to auditing. It's called automation. And that's what YouAttest is. It's automating the third A. And yes, there's a triple A, there's a AI component in there. But that's my answer right there. Why does YouAttest exist? Why did we get started? Because the third A of identity is in prehistoric levels. Auditing is still with spreadsheets in Excel. Yeah.
And how do you solve the third A with YouAttest today?
So So where auditing is today is real intelligent people, real smart people, really informed people. I mean, there's no one that knows their codes and regulations more than governance, risk, and compliance people. You say SB 53 or ISO 4201 or ISO 2701 or NIST AI RMF, they know exactly what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Okay, how are they implementing that? The industry is implementing most of governance, risk, and compliance with spreadsheets. Wow. Spreadsheets and emails.
You're saying 2026, they're still using spreadsheets today?
The vast majority of governance projects when they say to do specific things like we need a user access review, which is what YouAttest does. A user access review is what? It is review the entities, review all the entities in your enterprise and have a document that attests to who has access to privileged data, to sensitive data. PII for finance, PHI for healthcare, CUI for defense, okay? That's not Garret saying it. That's not other people saying it. That's the law, okay? I mean, I can go down to regulations that says you as a company, if you're holding sensitive data and you're letting people get it in, you have to attest to his access. And what's going on today is most of that's like, okay, we got this. Here's Bob. Go get Jane and the team to go run a user access review. How should I do it? Here's some spreadsheets and emails. Just notify the managers and let the managers know they have to go through this spreadsheet and check off who should have access and that. And I'm not kidding. There's multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar companies still doing that today.
I see it with my own eyes, by the way, especially in governance.
Okay. It's governance. Governance is really smart people often using very behind the time tools.
And so this is what led you to start YouAttest to offer identity governance. Like, how does your platform work, first of all, and what's your target? Like, what's the perfect customer for you?
Yeah, so a great question. First, the product. So what I do is I look at what is this? I'm a hands-on engineer that worked help desk, was an SE, all that, and I'm like, how can I solve this problem? How can I solve this problem rapidly? Okay, without throwing a lot of bodies at it, because there are solutions that work, and there is, as our industry does create solutions that works, but they're not always for the right companies, which I'll get into the ICP then. Okay, the product, what it does is it takes what people have. Everyone by 2026 has an IDP. What am I talking about? What's the acronym?
Yeah,
an identity provider. That's Active Directory, Entra ID, Okta, Jump Cloud, Ping, something. You have something like that, and you're holding the identities. I hook into that thing in less than 5 minutes, and voila. Then I have a system that will audit those entities, but more relevantly, your healthcare, finance, insurance are big industries. You have all these siloed resources. I don't care if you're connected to your Okta or your Entra ID. I have a system. YouAttest has a system that audits those directly, and that's our secret sauce. How quickly we can get anything audited, and it's an ideal not only for enterprises but for MSPs and for the consultings who want to, basically help their customers out. So our ICP of this is this. Now, do we work with the companies that have the big legacy GRC tools? Yeah, we do, because our product simply is better for the user access reviews than the legacy products. But I'm not a big rip and replace guy. I'm a real greenfield. Hey, I go after, there's so many people who are still on spreadsheets. So our ICP is, we work with anyone from, we got customers up to 10,000 users running about 900,000 roles through this thing every audit. But our ICP, the ones that really hit are the 100 users to 2,500 users, with the sweet spot being 750 users to 1,500 users. Because we work with customers, they have 100 users, employees, whatever, but they'll have 500, 700 entities.
Wow.
Your non-human identities, your partners, your contractors. There's a lot of identities now that aren't employees anymore. And those are real problems.
How much do you find people who, like, when you run the audit, what do you say the percentage of in an average enterprise, let's just say 10,000 user enterprise, what percentage of people should not, what do you find as far as percentage-wise?
No, yeah, that's a really good question. You're going right at it. The ghost orphan accounts. If people haven't been doing automated reviews, that they'll find easily 15% orphan accounts.
Wow.
That are just
and that's
simply
how people get hacked too,
Not going to be hacked. But the biggest concept in hacking is dwell time. What hackers want is to stay in your system. Okay. Now the problem with the if you look at it from the hackers' viewpoint, what about the active accounts? There's enough of those. Yeah, but when you have an active account, people kind of recognize what you're doing because there's the amount of it. What they want to find is the orphan accounts that people aren't using, so they can impersonate, act them, and they basically able to act in impunity. So if you got 10 to 15% of your accounts are orphan accounts that really don't have a real user associated, and let me explain what that means. Because what it could be is it was in sales, so he had access to Salesforce, but he actually switched over to marketing. And he's not in marketing anymore. But he's not in sales anymore, but he has access to all these sales tools. So that's orphaned. Garret still has an active account in Salesforce because no one's ever removed him, And there's two concepts in identity governance you should always be aware of: privilege creep and privilege drift. Privilege creep means you keep on adding privileges, and privilege drift is sometimes you get off from where you meant.
Wow.
And that's the natural state of identity, is to grow and to grow. The reason governance has things that are called controls is that's supposed to mitigate and to circumvent that natural state of moving on. Yes. So that's what user access and reviews, and that's why we automate it, to combat privilege creep and privilege drift.
In which industries do you guys focus on today? Is it healthcare?
I say healthcare, finance, insurance. Healthcare, finance, insurance. We have customers in education. We have customers in retail. We have customers even in defense because they have CMMC. But the biggest ones are healthcare, finance, and insurance because they're actually the most mature. And everyone has a problem with this, but as much as we put down healthcare and blah, blah, they're always behind, they're at least cognitive that there's a problem. So in many ways, let's give them a hats off. They know that there's a problem, okay?
Right.
In all industries, all industries have this problem. And remember, in all industries, they're under regulations. You go to a elementary school, they're holding PHI for kids. And they have this problem just as much as others do.
So how do you work with MSPs today? And if so,
yeah, I'm glad you pivoted to that. MSPs. So let's talk MSPs, managed service providers, and MSSPs, the managed security service providers. And why do I make that distinction? Because MSPs are your delivery point now. They manage people's entitlements and they manage a lot of the device management and et cetera. Okay, they have their skills. And what we're saying is, hey, we built a really simple tool that you can review your identities. Now, we're working directly with some MSPs and training them, and it's a good thing. They're coming on board. We're also working with MSSPs. And what's that? Those are those service providers who provide services to the MSPs, okay? And it's a real simpatico relationship. Whereas the MSSP says, hey, I'll just put this as a contract to you. We'll manage these. We'll run the user access reviews. And the MSPs are grateful that way. So it's a shout out for both industries. Either way, the way it's going is there's more and more outsourcing, of this type of task to MSPs, MSSPs, and the third party, I'd say straight out, are consultants. I swear, Walid, I just got off a call and the guy goes, is he an MSP or a consultant? And I go, I think that distinction is a distinction without a difference.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
That
Right.
so many consultants are taking over work that the MSPs do, and the MSPs are taking work that consultants do. And it's really a distinction without a distinction, or whatever the phrase is. But I see it so much. I have the exact same conversations with consulting services as I do with the MSPs, the MSSPs.
Right. What do you say? What's the process to become an MSP, and also what do you guys offer to the MSPs today? Is this a long training period to learn the tool, or this is just a plug and play?
Well, first of all, there's nothing more important to the MSP than the bottom line, in a good way, right? The margins are low. So when I went and built the MSP product, I wanted to talk to a whole bunch of MSPs at convention, and still do, and took in their input. And they said, Garret, there's two things you guys do wrong, and you guys being the guys who build tools for the MSPs in theory to use. One is your pricing's wrong. You expect us to know how many users we're going to use, and they don't. And let's respect them. They offer things and they let their customers decide. Now, I have MSPs who have actually become the adult in a room and say, hey, if you're in healthcare, finance, insurance, or in government, you have to take this package. And I think that's the right way. But anyways, so we did the pricing that way. We did the pricing that says we do not charge you up front. There is no upfront cost. There's no setup costs. All you do is how many you use that month. Okay.
Right.
And and they can make a real good profit off of that. The way we align this, we can actually the way we align this is they can double our price and still be half the price of the big guys. So
I think that's very compelling. It's an easy entry. It's an easy. Yeah. It's not easy.
And the other thing is we greatly simplified. That's the other thing they asked is the pricing, and then your admin council, because the people build these products for quote unquote for the MSPs, but they don't put any RBAC in it, And we have multi-tiered RBAC that one FTE at the MSSP or consultant services can get on there and do granular control, or do this much control. His whole council where he has all the different enterprises that he's managing. So we're ready for the MSPs for this.
Okay, so here's another question. If someone wants to try the YouAttest platform, is this a free trial, or how do they try it out?
We practically all of our sales have been through POCs.
Good. That's good.
About 90.
So it really gives the customer time to try it out and see how it works and all that stuff.
But we have people trying to run everything with inputting their HR data to putting in their PAM data, putting their IAMs, always use your IAMs, or they got these siloed resources because they're in healthcare and finance and insurance, and they just do it straight that way. We have a really, really simplified way of inputting information into this.
Here's another question, Garret. Like, as far as AI goes, where is IGA going with AI? Is there going to be a lot more integration with AI and so forth?
I really think where AI is the best in governance is helping reduce the time of what should be investigated.
Right.
And that's where we have a patent that we have it built in a product already, where we came up with an identity trust score. And the identity trust score.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. We it's good. Look up YouAttest, ITS, identity trust score. What it does is it goes through your enterprise, goes through your identities, and says these accounts and these users are at risk. They're at risk for the enterprise security because
that is so cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Using AI, they have segregation of duty violations. The groups are out of whack, right? And there's something completely different. This is a whole branch I have. One of the big problems in IT is that we have very intelligent people in GRC, but the IT cyber people do not know what they're doing. And it's not like they hate each other, not like they're big companies, everyone's running, cats in a den.
Wearing multiple hats. Yep.
Yeah. So what our product does is it takes into account the work that the GRC folks have done. Have they done a review? If they've done a review of this account, a YouAttest review in the last month, last 30 days, or whatever, okay, there's some confidence. If no one's reviewed this NHI, this admin, this user accounts for 3 months, 6 months, a year, we degrade the identity trust score. And that's not being done by any other product in the world. And that's being done in YouAttest. And that's with AI. And that's as simple to read on the dashboard.
Wow. So technically, is it running in the background to monitor the degradation of
Yeah. And then all you do is you run a report and you say, hey, I want this group. I want to know the ITSs of all this group. I want to know this. And then you just go to that dashboard and it shows you. Yes.
And how long does it take to do all this? 10,000 people is a lot of people. So how long does it take?
The reviews themselves are all automated, and the ITS is just pulling the information from the reviews.
Wow.
So it's all there. And remember, where this is all going to go is, remember I started with the 3 A's, authentication, authorization, and audit. Well, where we got to go with AI is the feedback loops. That's why we get hacked so much, guys. There's one group doesn't talk to the other. The feedback loop of this is I'm the 3rd A, the audit, but I can feed back via a signal back to the 2nd A. Should I be trusting this user at this level? And that's where the ITS comes in, and we have APIs that can pull that. This is not, on Mike and stuff. Guys, this is what zero trust is supposed to be. Zero trust is supposed to be a reauthorization. And if you want to call it authentication, fine. It really is a reauthorization of a user at each step in the transaction. And what you're supposed to be doing in zero trust is you're supposed to be grabbing signals, the best signals you can get at that time for this information. Okay? And that's what YouAttest is providing. It's providing a signal that you can do a better decision. Let's say someone's trying to exfiltrate a terabyte of data, right? But it's authenticated, Garrett. So it's got to be trust. Right. No. In the authorization phase, it should be, no one has inspected this user for a year and a half. It's got way over permission. My ITS trust score would be very low. And then the automated enforcement point using the YouAttest ITS signal can flag it and shut it down. That's how this should all work.
Interesting. So what CEOs today, if a CEO is listening to this today, or a CTO, CIO, what should they look for if they've never done this before?
Well, one is, what is your GRC budget, and how much are you spending for tools? I mean, the bigger companies, in a good way, do have budget for this stuff. They're just overpaying. They're overpaying on services, and they're overpaying on tools. Tools like YouAttest come in license price about 1/10 of what the big guys will charge, and a service costs 1/100th.
Wow.
Okay. So your budget right now, dear CIO, CEO, is too high for this. You're paying the money. You're paying to review this stuff. You're paying, usually large SIs using large things. You're just paying them too much. And I can give YouAttest a try in demo accounts or that kind of stuff, and we can show you we can greatly reduce your cost and increase your security and governance posture. The product works. We've done like 4.3 million attestations. Wow. And we've been reviewed by all the big guys, the Accentures, Deloittes, the E&Ys, all the companies. We don't get reviewed, but the reports that we generate at the customers get reviewed by these enterprises. Mm-hmm. And that's we're ready for it.
So is the signals then for CEO, CTO, CIO, is it just budget, or should they be looking at, obviously, their whole security posture, but is there a specific one thing that you see people tend to say, okay, I got to do this now, I can't wait anymore?
Well, the real thing, especially in the bigger companies, they have, yearly, one of the big reasons you do a user access review is your SOX, your Sarbanes-Oxley SOX. Okay? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Those are costing enterprises, on average, at a low average, of $1 million.
Wow.
And a lot of that is user access reviews. Where is that budget going? It's just one of those line items that people say, well, okay, I'm going to do my SOX audit. I'm going to, shuffle off on 1 million to this hole. Okay, where's that money going?
Right.
Maybe you want to break that down. And it goes for other, the HIPAA compliance for PCI DSS, which is your retail, your bankings, the NCUA, your FFIEC, and insurance. Insurance has tons of regulations. Okay, look at that line item for user reviews, user attestation, user recertification. Why is that so high? It doesn't need to be. There are products. This is what YouAttest does. We can greatly reduce your costs. And we have ways to do this. We can train your own team. We have MSPs and consultants to do it, and we can do it ourselves with our product. But
wow.
And we have great loyalty from the people who use this product. There was a very large company. You all know the name. I'm just not allowed to say. And they use this product. They've been using it for multiple years. And the CIO came in, new one, said, hey, we got too many vendors. You got 25. I want to get this down to 3. And so they were going to remove YouAttest from the governance group, just based out of the rough cut. And the group said, half of the team said they were going to quit because they're like, I can't do the job. And that's what we offer. We offer a product that works for 1/10 the price. And it has great stickiness because it works. It allows you to review not just the users, but now it allows you to review your file shares, your Microsoft Teams, OneDrive, and SharePoint. Especially if you're in a PII company, right? You're in healthcare, in pharmaceuticals. Do you know what files have been shared? You're supposed to.
Nobody knows.
Some of the supposed to's are good regulations. We should know. Good God, a little thing called the F-35 would have been good to know where we were sharing those files.
And this is very important. The more I listen to what you're saying, it's very important to do this. Even for companies who are not running through a security audit, they should really take a deep dive about their security posture, who has access to what data, and so forth. Because again, this is how you get hacked, right? But also is having a peace of mind when it comes to your security footprint. Here's another question, Garret. You've been doing this for so long. What is the growing pain of cybersecurity today? Do you think?
I think it's converging to identity. They always say, and I think it gets lost on people new to the industry. Why do they always say it's converging to identity? Well, security guys, when Walid and Garret got into the world of security, and it's worth saying, when you said security, you were almost assumed to be a network person. You really were.
Yeah.
You knew how to segment, you knew how to route, you knew how to do layer 2 to layer 4. And you knew how to set up a firewall. That was most enterprise security was at the network level. The network doesn't even exist anymore. Companies run with pure cloud with someone with a mobile. Okay, so the most important security component now is the identity and the authorization that identity has. Now, the network didn't go away. They were the first adapters of zero trust, which is reauthorize the user. So identity and network works together great. But there's a lot of places where there is no network. The cloud is taken over, and the only enforcement point you got in the cloud is a secure identity.
Yeah, and especially if you have a multi-cloud infrastructure today, AWS, Google Compute Engine, Azure, and all that stuff, that's so much information to manage and not knowing who has access to what. So your platform does all that stuff.
Yeah, without automation, it can't be done. It literally can't be done. There's no way any enterprise over, I think the number is getting pretty close to like 20, 25 users because of all the contractors and HIs can do this stuff manually and know who has access. So if you're, a real company, you got 100 users, which means you probably got 300 to 500 entities managing your services and all that. And if you haven't automated those reviews, you've got a lot of hidden gremlins running around.
Okay, this is the last question, and give me 5 points of what leaders in IT today should look at. 5 steps that they should take immediately today after watching this podcast.
I like what you said that. What's the first step? Mm-hmm. Working with some consultants right now and MSPs, like I said, it's pretty much the same thing to me, to how they work. When they take out a new client, both consultant and whatever, they always give them, in a good way, a pen test. And I go, great. What are you pen testing? They're pen testing ports, they're pen testing application flaws. Good.
That's good.
Given that 75 to 80% of your hacks are coming from identities, don't you think you should start your new job as a C, right? Your new gig as the MSP provider, your new gig as a consulting service in doing an identity pen test. I'm working with this one great guy. He has a concept of adult in a room. He goes, Garret, they're hiring me to be the adult in the room. And then he looks him in the eye and says, okay, I'm going to take you on as a client. One of the first things I do is, and he does, he goes, I'm going to get you a managed identity service, something, Okta, Entra ID, single sign-on. I'm going to put in 2-factor, and we're going to immediately conduct a identity pen test. That's what I call it. That's what he does in his work. It's just a access review. Mm-hmm. Let's go through your users. Let's find all the, if they've never done one, it's a lot higher than 15%. Sometimes they got 30, 40% of just garbage in there. Excess privileges, ghost accounts, and all that. That to me is the 2026. I'm the new IT guy. It's my responsibility. The bullet goes in my back when we get hacked. This is the first thing we have to do. We have to review all the users and privileges. And that's what YouAttest has. We call it a one-time identity pen test. You just run this product over the relevant services, remove those users, and get going.
And the second thing?
Second thing, after that, well, then you have to, once you have that set up, you have to manage it. I mean, it's with every culture has its flaws. Americans are really good at starting something. Consistencies, it's not sexy to keep doing, the right practices. That's what we have to do. It's maintenance.
Got it. So the first thing as a CEO watching this, get in touch with your IT and review your user access review. Second thing, managing it. And what's the third thing?
That's what I'm saying. The second thing is it should be, what is your practice and procedures? That's what a SOX report is supposed to show. It's supposed to quantify the practice and procedure. Same thing for AI, guys. I'm doing a lot of consulting and talking to people around ISO AI, ISO 4201, which is your practice and procedures around data and algorithms for secure and governable AI. Okay?
So this is very important. So AI is, everybody's given access to AI. How is that going to work with it? This is very important.
Well, AI is, is just the extension of our IT systems. It's algorithms, it's data, and it's users. And we have to quantify, and that's the ISO 4201. The other ones do a good job too, especially OWASP top 10. They're straight out and saying, okay, you can't trust the AI if you don't know who has access to it. Who had access to the data? Who had access to the retraining? You can't, it's not governable AI without that information.
Yeah, because sometimes even when using Chat GPT, for example, sometimes I wonder if they're archiving my prompts, and what they're doing with that data.
100%.
How do you govern
100%. Yeah. And what is who are the people that have access and what are they doing? Okay, especially the AI that enterprises are building and all that. If you can't trace back, that's people. If you're trying to stay up on the laws on AI, look up AI transparency laws. That's what it's all being called. Transparency means that you, the enterprise, especially if you build your own AI models, are transparent. And what they mean by transparent is that you actually understand and can demonstrate who built the models, who built the data, what type of data you actually put in, and that's just hardcore governance. The same way we did IT, is that we know who in the AI world, we know who collected the data, we know where it's stored, we know who wrote the algorithms. This is all documented, and when this is all comes back to access management, it should be groups. I authorize people to have the data if they were in this group. This is the AI data governance group, okay? And then you should be able to show two things with YouAttest type attestation reports, and you should be able to show the auditor, this is who has access. So that's what all has to be set up. That's the way AI governance should be. Yes.
This is very impressive.
I would say you should be challenging your team. This is the last part of this one, to always looking for automating processes. So you come in there and you go, we got to do a review immediately. Then we got to set up our practices. And then you look at the team and go, okay, now that we've got things settled and things are decent, how do we do this every quarter? How do we do this every month? Right? I mean, they're saying now that in healthcare and finance insurance industry say that you should be reviewing your admin accounts every month.
Yeah.
Right? And that goes back to your automation. But that's really it. It is you got to do your triage, come in there and say, guys, we got to find out what we don't know what we don't know. 2, we got to set up this regularly. And 3, we got to put the automation tools in.
Okay, one other question that I always think about, do you think because of AI and everybody rolling AI is going to increase the cost of compliance?
No, I think AI has helped. I think 2 ways. So the average company is going to increase the cost. No, because companies like YouAttest are bringing you AI solutions that reduce your cost. But I will quote the gentleman who started Netscape, and his name eludes me, but he said, "What's the threat of AI?" And he said, "There's 2 threats to AI. 1, China does it better than we do, and that's just standard competition. So I mean, that's pretty understood, and no one's bashing the Chinese, but they're allowed to compete. We got to compete and keep up with them. Great." The other one he said is overregulation, and I like ISO 42001. I think it's prescriptive. I think the OWASP top 10 on AI is fantastic. It's not kind of good, it's fantastic because it's very prescriptive in how that AI should be managed in a good way. It just says straight up. Number 1, it says you got to know his access to this stuff. Okay? Right. And it's a great, the OWASP did a fantastic job. Then there's other ones out there like NIST AI RMF, which are kind of scary. It's very nebulous. And it's very nebulous in how it's written. I almost see it as dangerous because if you have, NIST AI is not a regulation, but anyone who's been around the block knows that a lot of stuff that NIST writes does become regulation. So that's where I'm just nervous. Got to make sure that we as an industry understand that we have a powerful tool here. Tools like the ISO 4201 and top 10 OWASP are very good tools to help us do our governance. Okay. And then as a industry, we got to make sure that whatever regulations that are put on AI are helpful. I mean, in many ways, people, it's no different than PCI DSS 40 years ago. And I go, where are you going with that? I go, well, there was a huge hack on, I think it was TJ Maxx, that they stole all the credit cards from and all that. And there was all this nervosity 40 years ago on the usage of credit cards because people weren't deemed as secure. the industry put together PCI DSS and said, we've got to make sure that credit cards are kept securely so the industry feels comfortable. And I kind of feel the same way about AI, okay? Where it's not, we shouldn't look at regulation and governance as a threat. We should look at it as how we make people feel comfortable with AI, okay? And I think that is our challenge around AI, is being an adult about it and acting right now, proactively acting governance. And then when the laws come out, make sure that those laws are actually attainable and helpful.
Right. I would assume all these laws coming in the future, they're going to require, tools like YouAttest to run these audits on a monthly basis.
They will be asking, because you can read them, and I can show you that I've done intersections with my product to every single one of them, from EU AI Act to the SB 53 passed here, and NIST RMF. They all expect the enterprise to have a clear understanding of who has access to the data, the algorithms, the retraining, and the usage.
Got it. Well, this has been very interesting listening to all this. So, Garret, thank you so much for your time. How do people reach out to YouAttest today to try out your platform, and maybe some pointers on that?
YouAttest, that is it. YouAttest. Move this thing a little over. Look at that. There it is. YouAttest. Okay. YouAttest.com or info@youattest.com, or look up Garret Grajek. I think there's only one of them on LinkedIn. I'm on all the time. Okay.
You are the best. Thank you so much, Garret. And guys, this was the Value Proposition Podcast. Please reach out to Garret if you're interested in learning more about the YouAttest platform. I think this is great, very important as you as a CEO of a company, CTO, to understand your security and compliance and have a clear understanding of who has access to what. Garret, thank you again. I appreciate your time, and we'll see you again hopefully in the future.
Great stuff, Walid. Thanks for having me on.